Save Our Kids is an opportunity for you to be introduced to a few school and student helpers. If there is a space or a place to improve the lives of our children, we know a few families and business owners who have made it their business to answer the call for help and provide a solution to those challenges that impact our children and eventually us all. We could not just choose one kiddo to save, so we are asking for your help to reach more. Join Keeping Your Kids Safe as we identify some of the problems and share a few solutions that have been created just for you. Yay, I did it. Every once in a while, I don't know, sometimes I think it's not so great. Thank you. Welcome. How is everybody doing today?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Don't be scared. Just jump in. We got this. We got some great people here today. Don't worry. Some great people are going to show up in our comments, and we're going to be able to do that. I forgot to tell you, please remember, do not stream directly. Do not stream while we're on this call. Otherwise, it will lag your video. All right. So that was that was technical stuff for all those people who may be watching and figure out, oh, why is that happening? That's a good one. Don't do two at once. All right. So first, we always want to enter in with saying thank you. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Thank you for joining the conversation. And I also want to thank all of those teachers and administrators for doing what they do. If it wasn't for them, education would not be able to progress and move forward. And we are able to help and support those children. You're doing a great job at what you're doing, but we do notice that you need some support and help. But first, I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you. I also want to thank the village. The village is those people who help you when you can't get there, right? And so those are your chosen family outside of your bloodline. And I'd like to thank that village as well, because they have been very instrumental in let me turn off my phone. Instrumental in helping our students and our families. Before we can create anything, we need to understand what we're creating it for and what is the desired outcome that we're looking for. Right? So let's talk about it a little bit. So we talk about this one thing. Currently, they say there's 49.4 million students in the fall of 2020 and the fall of 2022 that were enrolled. It is projected that the total that will decrease to 46.9 million by the fall of 2031. There's a problem there. Something's going on. There's something we need to look to solve. Why is there a reduction in the number of students that are being enrolled in school? That's one. 1.2 million children per year are sold into slavery, whether that's sex, whether that's work, or for all of it's nefarious. It doesn't matter. There's something wrong there. 37% of our students cannot read on grade level. That is 13 million children that are. So if you look at the numbers, if we start at 49.4 and we have 13 million children who cannot read on grade level, that is a substantial number that can be solved. Out of the 4 million teachers that are in education today, 55% of them want to quit as of 2023. That is more than half of the teaching staff. And we do know that there is a bus driver shortage and there's a teacher shortage because they are migrating away from education for various reasons. We do know that at least 2 children every single day, every single school probably gets misplaced. The difference is, as long as they can catch it before the parents know, no harm, no foul, and the parents don't get to be excited about that. I just want to share that out of 180 school days for the student, that means they are away from home 1,260 hours per year. But the parents in a work week, 52 weeks, right? 2,080 hours are spent that week on a 40-hour work week. But when you add travel time, it goes up to about 2,600 hours you are away from your child a day. Mm-hmm. So that is the reason why I believe that parent 1 is home, parent 2 is school, and bonus is your community. Because we have to learn how to co-parent with the school in order for our children to have a more impactful life and understand that what we pour into our children can potentially be being pulled out of our children when they are sent to school, because they spend more time with our children sometimes than we do. Also, the things I want to talk about is 44% are have reported being depressed, 37% report having anxiety, and 40 to 60% of the students have test anxiety, and 90% of the students are sleep deprived with a year and a half behind in education. All right, so now that we've set the stage as to why we're here and the inspiration for what this is, why we're doing this, I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to share your who you are, what you do, and then how you're going to be able, how you would like to support the school systems. So we're going to go. Oh, yay, that landed. All right, Miss Mamie, you up first.
Thank you, Tabitha. Aloha, everyone. My name's Mamie Lamley, and I am the founder of an organization called Empowerment on Fire. And my background is education. I spent 35 years in Special Olympics, putting on programs, and I'm blown away, Tabitha, by the stats that you just gave me, because I've been out of the system for a little while now, and to see these numbers are pretty staggering. And so this is where I'm hoping that we get to talk about, how can we, and what is it that parents are looking for? And that's what I love working on. We, meaning most of the speakers today, really do focus on, one, making kids matter, and two, making people matter. And that's a big deal for us. And we're collaborating and seeing how we can open communications from the child to the parent to the teacher to the extended services and into the community, so that we can hear and see what's going on in the education field as we know it today. And so that's why I'm here. I'm here to support you, support teachers out there, Tabitha. You make a difference, and I'm here to contribute in any way I can. Education is a big deal. I've got grandchildren. And so again, these numbers are staggering, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can collaboratively talk about what we can offer today in education. Back to you, hon.
Yes, I'm so excited for you, because I know that you have the answers, because I've been in some of your training. So yes, ma'am, I can't wait. This is exciting. You guys, you need to come on. Let's get it. All right, Michelle, you're up next.
Oh, so I am Michelle Lee. My last name is Murder, and I actually am not in the educational space, but I am here because I am a trainer and I work with communication, and I'm here as a parent. I'm here to share what happened in my life before I learned what I know now, and after, and how that affected me and my kids in the school district, and how it made a bigger impact, and how I was able to have a voice not only for myself, but for my kids.
Nice. I like this. Yes, I know some of your story too. So I'm excited to hear for people to understand how Codebreaker actually makes a significant difference. All right, Dr. Eric.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to share with you and to be a part of your mission to save kids. I am an educator at heart, having spent many years in higher ed, primarily, having been a professor, dean, and then chief academic officer, and passionate about changing the nature of education. Just did some training last week in Arizona with the school district, and ultimately there's a lot. Your statistics were staggering. And I've seen the other side of that as an educational administrator, and I do work in leadership development within education so that people have the skills to really make sense and cope, for lack of a better term, with all of the challenges. You talked about that 55% wanting to leave education, and we continue to see a lot of people recognizing and leaving education. And there's other things, as we have an opportunity to talk today, that can make a difference to really empower teachers to have the skills to connect with students, and obviously the administrators to connect with the teachers, for the students to connect with the teachers, to connect with each other, so that we can make a difference. And as we heard earlier about making kids matter, making people matter, and really how do we connect people so that they do have a voice, that they feel seen and heard in the education setting, regardless of who they are. And I love the point about co-parenting, because I remember having to go through a class to get my driver's license, but that's not something you have to do as a parent. We assume that people know how to parent. We assume that because people have a degree in a particular discipline that they know how to teach. So part of my mission is to help really give people the skill sets to engage and connect with people in a way that's going to activate their brain in a way that they can get excited about learning again.
Yes. That is pretty cool. I'm excited. I mean, you've been through a lot of different a lot of different things. So this should work out really well for us to, we're going to learn so much from you. I'm excited. This is just exciting. I don't know. I've just got really excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I got all these favorite people on the screen. And I'm just like, yay, this is what happens. Okay. I'm sorry. Fanning out. All right. So then there's me. My name is Tabitha Barron, and many of you know me. I am the founder of Keeping Your Kids Safe. At the end of the day, the reason why I've chosen to do Keeping Your Kids Safe is because I did see the pain. I heard the pain in my mom's voice when that child did not get off the school bus. I also noticed the outcome for the child. My niece to this day still does not have a very good sense of a way to communicate. That all stems from the way that they managed her or dealt with her when they were placing her on the wrong school bus. Mm-hmm. For that reason, I created a platform that allows each child to effectively communicate their way home. A lot of times people are like, what does that mean? What it means is that we as the adults have a tendency to make everybody else smaller who are smaller and shut them down so they don't have a way to communicate. You ask children to communicate their feelings, and then when they do, you tell them that's not warranted or accepted here, and you shut it back. And that actually has an adverse effect to how they move for the rest of their time, and as they're continuing to grow. For that reason, that is the reason why I've chosen that specific phrase, effectively communicate, because if they can effectively communicate to an adult that's willing to listen, they will ultimately be as safe as they can possibly be, because that adult now sees them and hears them. So that's what we're here to do. So yay, I'm excited. Okay, so I'm gonna say hello to a few people. Hi, Catherine, it's nice to see you too. Yes, my friend. Hey, Phil. I love it. Oh, Mamie, yay. Yep, and he sees all the people. Michelle, good. And yep, we're saving our kids together, because at the end of the day, thank you, Phil, Emily, Catherine, and Sia, all of you who are watching. Kristen, I know Kristen is watching too. So I'll start here. 55% want to quit. But I think it's related. I think it's sort of related to 37% not being able to read on grade level, right? So those two actually are directly proportional in a way. But what are some of the things? Okay, so I'm going to put up this thing so that people will know they can crack their code, because we're about to talk about that. What are some of the things that you think that the schools, you think or know that the schools can adopt when it comes to Codebreaker that will help them reach more of their students and reduce the reading and reduce the want and desire to leave their positions? Anybody can take that. Mamie? Nodding.
Tabitha, I think the biggest challenge is understanding where that child is coming from. We all have been taught to go to where the child is. Imagine this, if you could actually understand how the child actually absorbs the information that we're giving them, could there be another way that we could language how they do things? You know, in Codebreaker, we identify with 4 different personas. The blueprint persona is the one that they need structures and systems. The action persona, they need to be able to be free, be spontaneous, and take action. Those are the ones that we usually identify as our kids who have ants in their pants, ADD, not to use labels, because I don't like to use labels. But then we have the child who likes that authenticity, the closeness, and all they want to do is please. And then we've got the child who is so smart that sometimes they are left forgotten because they are the ones who can take the information we're giving them, process it, and then take it away. Imagine if we had a system where we would be able to identify the kids and then instruct and teach accordingly. How powerful would that be? Because then we would be able to truly say we hear you and we see you. And those are some of the projects and protocols that we are working on to actually roll out to educators, to parents, to teachers, and to the support staff that actually provide services to help hone into the most important person in our education system, especially when we're looking at K-12, is that student. And that student is asking for 2 things. Please hear me and please see me.
Mm-hmm.
How do we adjust to that? And this is where Codebreaker comes in. You know, I love having Dr. Eric and also Michelle on the call, because Dr. Eric, he's amazing at bringing in the perspective from the education perspective. I get to be in the trenches where we get to teach that to the people who are now delivering the information. And it's making a difference to understand who that child truly is. So I'm going to let Dr. Eric and Michelle come on out, because they have stories of resilience and success in really making that difference in everyday education.
Here's one thing, though. There is one story that you told that reached my core. And I have been saying it for years, but I want you to share that story, if you are able to, about the fact that parents have a tendency to parent the children they receive instead of they parent the children they want versus the child that they received. And that is also another thing that helps to create a divide in education when it comes to teacher and the students that they receive in the classroom. So are you able to share that story with us?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I had an opportunity to work with parents and their teens and their children at one of the events that I spoke at. And it was amazing because we had a mother who looked at her child as if they were just like her. That's what you meant when we actually used that tagline of let us work, teach, and love the children we have, not the one that we wish we had. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not the one that we wish we had. And what we found out in this small exercise that we did was a mother was an action personality. She loved freedom. She loved flexibility. She loved being the center of attention. She had 2 children. Her daughter, she didn't like being the center of attention, but she loved the authenticity and closeness of another human being. And then the child, the son, was actually in the persona of he loved to learn. He was a lifelong learner. He was intelligent. He was actually also a key player in lacrosse and all the other sports that they do. And when we did this activity, we asked questions such as, what's important to you? And we knew exactly what was important to the mom, because when we broke them up into the 4 categories of personas or personalities, she was totally blown away because her daughter did not join her in what we call the action group, where they were movers and the shakers. Her daughter went to the nurturing group, where if you got to see what this group was doing, they were hugging and introducing themselves to each other. The actions, they were taking pictures and there were 3 boys who joined us in the knowledge category. And when we asked the question, you know, because the mom was saying, hey, what are you guys doing? You guys don't belong in that nurturing group or the knowledge group. You belong with me. I'm the action group. And at that point, the 2 children didn't know what to do. And so what we did was we asked the knowledge son, and we asked him, you know, if you could tell your mom one thing, what would that be? And he said, really? And I said, yeah, just tell mom. And I got permission from mom because this was going to be the first time that she got feedback. And the son said, well, mom, if you could just listen to me and be okay with me being in my room reading my book, that would really make a difference. And then the second question I asked him was, hey, you know, you're the captain of a sports team in lacrosse and in football. You do all of that. And talk to me about that. And he looked at his mom, and his mom actually got teary-eyed because I wasn't sure if she was ready to hear the answer he was about to give her. And he said, you know, Mom, I do it to make you and Dad happy. That was a big awakening for her. For the first time in her life, her son was able to communicate where he was at, and that everything he did was to make them happy. And when we asked him, if you could tell Mom what you love to do, this is what he said. Hey, Mom, it's okay for me to be in my room, reading my books, playing on my games. And for the first time for the mom, she realized that she was parenting the child she wished she had and not the child she had. And from that opened up a massive discussion in the group that we were in. That is raising the child you have and not the one you wish you had, Tabitha. And that's all the children are asking for. What if we were able to give those skill sets to the parents, to the teachers, to the extended support, and then move out from there? That could be powerful, yes? And I know Dr. Eric has more to add on that.
Exactly. So come on, Dr. Eric.
Yeah, well, there's such a great story and a powerful example of how we tend to treat people like we want to be treated in some cases. The golden rule, right? Versus the platinum rule, treat others how they want to be treated. And I think as a teacher, you know, the challenges we have, depending on the type of school, obviously, there's some schools, Waldorf and Montessori and different approaches that embrace a little bit more holistically the individual. As a teacher, the diversity that you have in a classroom, different background, different ethnicities, different languages, abilities, and different even socioeconomic statuses. But, you know, the bank, the blueprint, the action, the nurturing and knowledge system that you have the ability to get a report about is something that is really powerful to really understand how do you meet the needs of all students and ensure equitable education in a way that reaches the student based on what's important to them. Obviously, it's a challenge because we have systems that are set up. We have standardized testing, and there's a pressure to teach to the test in some cases as a teacher, because obviously there's financial, you know, implications based on the performance of the school. At the same time, when we talk about what anxiety, you shared that stat, Tabitha, about test anxiety and how maybe, you know, is that correlated to some of the things we see with depression? You think about it. You know, when you take a test, what it does is, from a neuroscience perspective, it triggers your body's stress response, which there's not surprising people have test anxiety because you're releasing stress hormones like cortisol and other things. And so how we are helping students understand how to manage that and how teachers can use different types of techniques to actually engage the student's brain in a way that enhances their memory and activates the appropriate brain regions to minimize anxiety and performance is really important. There's a lot of other aspects to that, but that's something that typically teachers don't learn about. They learn their particular area of expertise. I know I did, and I've seen dozens, hundreds of students, thousands of students be exposed to being taught in a way that doesn't resonate with what's important to them or how they learn. And so utilizing with an understanding of what's meaningful to the student, what they value, gives us an opportunity to actually activate their meaning network and connect with students at a deeper level and ultimately engage them so they're excited to learn and be there. And those same skills, whether you're a teacher or a parent, as Mamie was sharing, is understanding who are you raising? And I say that because you talked about the number of hours that teachers spend with our kids.
Mhm.
And as the proud father of two beautiful girls, I mean, I know it is that type of relationship and our dependency on, are we engaged in what's going on in their life? And do we understand our own kids? And do our teachers understand our kids in a way that they can actually serve them best? So those are just a few things. There's so many other areas we could explore, but at a high level, it's really about empowering educators, empowering parents, individuals with the skills to communicate and connect, because everyone has a deep sense of belonging and love that they strive for in life. And that we talked about being seen and heard, love and belonging. How do you create a trusting environment as a teacher or within a school culture or even within your home where that child is going to feel comfortable saying, hey, you know what? I'd rather just read a book, right? I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah. So that's a big thing. I really like that because my thing is, for whatever reason, I'm going to lag. I'm happy that we're having this conversation because one, Catherine talks about mindfulness and how, because I suffer from test anxiety. Nobody picked up on it until I was in college. And then when I was in college, I kept failing this test. And then the instructor was like, no, I don't understand what is happening with you. And I was like, I know, I get it. I just don't know how to test this. I just don't know how to do it. And he figured out that when he would just ask me the question, math question, put it on the board, whatever, when he said it out loud, I was able to go and I was give him the answer. But as long as it was under that pressure, I didn't perform very well because I never got the skill set in order to do that. Now, just recently, I can't say that that has changed for me, but because I've been working with Catherine and talking to Catherine a lot, her being able to help me reframe things in a way and kind of bring myself back to the present and then understand that my value systems, like we talked before we came up, right? The fact that I know where I want the knowledge and the process in place before I move to the next step. That has nothing to do with the fact that I want it my way. It's just the way I understand things. And it makes things so much easier for me. But since I've been part of the Codebreaker family, I have learned that I've changed the way I've approached my children. I've changed the way I've approached other people, and my communication style has improved. So I used to say, I can communicate with others. I'm good at communicating. But it turns out I was communicating from my point of view, right? And as long as I was communicating from my point of view, from my value systems, I was not resonating with the person that I wanted to work with. And so until I made that change and that transition, I was still having a really hard time trying to reach. And I thought I was the wrong person to do this business. I thought I was the wrong person to tell anybody what to do. I'm just the wrong person, right? But then you and your team and actually taught me that that's not the answer. That's not what it was. It's just that if I punch you in the arm and say I like you, that's not a message that you want to be hearing from me like that. But if I just walked up to you and says I like you, then you're going to be more receptive to that. So that was the difference, and I'm really appreciative of that. And so for that reason, I will go ahead and ask Michelle to share her story. And the reason why I'm asking for these stories, I'll actually circle it all back together at the end. So, in the next part. So Michelle, can you go ahead and please share the story as to what happened with you and your child?
So I was doing the same thing, Tabitha. I was showing up. I thought I was the fun mom. I was the mom everyone wanted. One of my children thought I was fantastic. However, the other one, I stressed them out every single day for 18 years. Now, Dr. Eric had talked about how the one child was like this is why I like to read. Like, can't you, it's okay if I'm in my room reading. Well, when my oldest son was on the playground, I had a teacher call me in for a conference to tell me that there was something wrong with him because he was on the playground reading. Could you imagine? Now, my thought was, if he wants to read, let him read. What's the problem? I don't see the problem, right? But how did that come across? Did that teacher say something to my son? Like, you should be playing, why are you reading? And making them feel uncomfortable. In that, I wish I would have known what I know now, because when I tell you I stressed him out for 18 years to the point of anxiety, to the point of depression, to the point of, I don't know, there's nothing stable in my life. I flew through the life by the seat of my pants. Never a plan, never a process, never structure. Like, everything was wing it. And he was looking for that stability from what time do we go to bed? And I would say, stay up late, eat popcorn, eat pizza, have fun. To the point of literally not having the childhood that he deserved. All because I thought I knew everything about him, but what I was lacking was his operating system and how to make him feel loved, because he loved differently than me. When I would try to hug him, he would break down and get angry. And I was like, I don't get it. And of course I would blame it on myself. Well, what did I do wrong as a parent? Why don't you love me? Yeah. Right? Well, the fact of the matter was, he just didn't like to be touched. He loves differently. He's in his head. I'm in the emotional space. So now we can understand each other. He calls me. We have real conversations. Right. Because we both come from a place of understanding. He understands why I showed up that way. And we both know we're not broken.
That's a big thing. I think and so that's why I say all of you had a story, and I heard some of these stories before, but I felt, and they're all slightly different, different people you engage with. Here's the thing. Each one of you have actually had the experience that says that if you communicate differently, it doesn't cost more, but the outcome is greater, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't cost more, and you don't have. So what I have been told is that when it comes to educators, I have 25 students in the classroom. I have to, whoever makes it, whoever doesn't. I can't wait for the other 5 or 10 to catch up. I have to keep moving. I have to keep pace because I have to keep that curriculum moving. But isn't it possible for them to use Codebreaker and put it in a format, in a formula that reaches all 25 students, and then they can all keep up? So talk a little bit about that before I go into the questions in the chat.
Yeah, so I think that's such a great point, because as a teacher, you're trying to connect with each individual student, and you've got a diverse group and from many different perspectives, but particularly from a learning point of view, it's your ability as a teacher, as you're instructing, to engage all the learners in the classroom. And part of communication, it's almost as if each of the different types we were talking about before that value different things speak a different language. Some of you are probably familiar with love languages and that idea. It's the same concept. And so if I've got a multilingual class, or the equivalent of it, based on people's personas or their value system as a child, I need to be multilingual and speak English, maybe Spanish, French, Italian to the entire class, because there's going to be certain people that will hear different messages. Otherwise, if I'm only speaking my native language, which is how I learn, or how I embrace information, the learners that are just like me will connect with that, but everyone else is going to be tuned out. They're going to be distracted, and they're going to be disengaged and obviously not learning. So I think that's a good premise to start from is, how do I connect with each student based on their learning style and approach and what they value? And then you can do things within the classroom setting in terms of different active learning strategies and things with different types of learners to have them engaged in things that they would enjoy doing. Like the person who likes to learn, you can go and write a research paper. The student that likes more hands-on, like, go and we're going to go on a field trip and do these things. I mean, there's different things where you can engage them from an educational perspective. So I share those thoughts. I know, Mamie, you've got some ideas as well.
You know, with understanding each of the students' strengths, what's important to them, which is their values, and then understanding how you can shift languaging, because there are differences in each 4 of those personas, and it's all values-based. So when I know that I'm dealing with a child who needs structure and stability, I can language it that way. When I know that I have a child who is jumping up and down and they want that freedom and flexibility, I can language that. And then we have the child who needs a little more of that touch, that connection, rapport, that closeness to you. We can shift languaging that is not only verbal, but nonverbal. And then give that space to the child who wants to learn, and allow that child to be okay in the reading in their room or reading on the playground, Michelle. Yes.
Yeah.
To accommodate all different value sets in the classroom doesn't require you to change who you are as a teacher. It opens the doors in regards to what is possible to actually get the child to engage with you. And imagine the communication walls that would drop between the child and a parent when they understood that we're not broken and it's not personal, it's just personality. And that's what it's all about. Yes, Tabitha, that's what caught you.
I had that right here. I have it on my monitor right here. It's not personal, it's personality. Like, this is so funny. So Catherine said, very happy to hear this conversation, because how children are treated influences how they treat themselves as well, which affects their life experience and their health on all levels, which is extremely important, because I think that I feel like sometimes we forget that parent 1 has them at home, right? And they're partially feeding them because that's all they have. They're all they have available. They don't spend a lot of time with them because they have 2 and 3 jobs trying to keep the lights on, things like that. And then they go to parent number 2, which is school. And so parent number 1 is having a really hard time just trying to keep the lights on. Parent number 2 is there to educate, but they're now having to deal with the roll-off effect of what's happening at home. And so then they're like, Johnny, sit in your seat. Johnny, stop jumping up. Johnny, stop doing this. Why are you doing that? Blah, 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 right? But we forget that that child is dealing with whatever's happening at home, and you're dealing with the behaviors that come from the challenges they have at home. But when you can meet them where they are and use Codebreaker as a way to effectively communicate with them from their value systems. And let's be very clear for all those people who are listening, children have value systems very early on in their lives. So let's not get that mistaken. You're not gifting them that. They have that. They develop that. They understand that. So when your child says, yeah, I don't like that carrot cooked, but I'll eat it raw all day, that's them telling you they have their own way of thinking and moving. And it is in our best interest to respect that, nurture that, and encourage that, because that is the strength that they will need in the rest of their lives. So I do believe that a lot of that. So let's go to Phil. Dr. Eric, you described the desire of what's needed for students and empowering teachers, but do you have any K through 12 school district examples where every student is engaged in the subjects that they are excited to learn?
Great question. Thank you for that. We are in the process of collecting that type of data. So if you know of a district that is interested in doing that type of study, certainly reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, because when you say every student, that's a high bar. But if we could get 90%, 99%, whatever that number is, how much better would that be than what exists currently? And yes, I have seen the impact from a retention engagement standpoint, from learning metrics in the education setting when you start applying these skills. And I think ultimately, when it comes to communication, one of the things that as educators, going back to this idea of personality and values, is that we are focusing on IQ. We're focusing on the 3 R's, right? And the reality is the skill that's not taught in K-12 or in higher ed. One of the biggest complaints I always had from employers and industry is, can't you teach people to communicate, to get along, to listen to each other, to work well in teams, to manage conflict? It's the human skills. And so we're talking emotional intelligence, which is something that's way more important for an individual's life and their success, not just in their career, right? In their health and well-being. In fact, great book, longest running study studying human happiness coming out of Harvard this year, called The Good Life, where they found the thing that makes the biggest difference is relationships. So at any rate, I know I went on a little bit of a tangent, but the reality is we are on a quest to show the world that there is a better way of engaging students and actually changing the system in a way that, when you think about much of education, it hasn't changed for centuries. And we have way more information, and it requires a different skill set and ability to be successful today. And we've got to activate the meaning network. We're not in the industrial age anymore in terms of what we're preparing students for. So I'd share that.
I love that. I love that.
Tabitha, we have a teacher out in New York City that actually came through our coaching program. And how she set it up in her classroom was, she literally coded all of her students. She coded all of her teachers and her student teachers. Why did she do that? Because she wanted to actually build her own case study, because she learned what it was like to speak to the child that needed the structure and so forth. And what she found was this, and this is the best compliment that a child could give. Can I go back to Miss Lorraine's class again? Students showed up, 100% attendance rate. Students were learning and engaging, and in her instruction, she was able to translate the instruction, to give it once in the needs of all 4 different personalities. And then her co-teacher said, why am I keep hearing, can you go away and can we have Miss Lorraine? Yes, that's the best compliment that we could give.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although we do not have tons of information, we are using this in schools that are getting ready to roll out. We will have that documentation. However, where this has truly impacted and has shown that it's more than just the education system that this could be used in is in our corporate world, in our business to business, in our one-on-one, in solopreneur and entrepreneurship. And when you get to see the dynamics of going to where a person is and truly speaking in that connection and rapport of the important value sets, it's amazing why people will buy into you and how they will say yes faster rather than no. And that is, we started off as a sales organization, Tabitha. What we soon realized is that sales turned into a relationship. That's what we started hearing. We were teaching sales and people were telling us, hey, you saved my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
For a grandmother, she came in for sales and she said, my gosh, I have a communication tool now to speak to my 12-year-old grandson. And her 12-year-old grandson really felt like he wasn't heard or seen. And why is this important? Because this is what has kept me in bank, Tabitha. That grandmother had a tool set that she could use with her 12-year-old grandchild. and we were 2 days too late. That child took his life. And the hardest part was for that grandmother to come back to me and says, Mamie, I couldn't do it for my grandchild that was 12 years old, but I realized that my grandchild who is 6 has the same personality tendencies, and this will never happen on my watch again. So when you ask about what do, we do sales, we do relationships, we do communication mastery, and then on the light side, we teach people how to use languaging that makes a difference in people's lives. And it helps people to understand that it's not personal, Tabitha, it is personality. And when opposites come together, they attract and they also attack.
Mhm.
And that's what we teach. And that has saved relationships. And that is why we're looking at education, because what is more important than the relationship between a child and a parent, and the child to a teacher, to a support, to the community? That's where it all starts, with the individual. And that's why it's important for people to understand that these to handle that.
Cool. I was like, whoa, that just did that. But look, it caught real quick. Yay. I'm excited. This is good, because here's the thing. What I just heard you say, and for all those teachers who will watch this in replay, look, you have a 37% where children cannot read on grade level. You have an opportunity with the bank system, with Codebreaker, to actually reduce the number of students who cannot read on grade level. We said there is 44% that report that they are depressed and they have anxiety. Okay. That means that, imagine, so when I get depressed and I'm dealing with my own anxiety, because I can only talk about myself because that's the only body I reside in. So I know it's always the same thing. Somebody's not listening to me. Not that I'm right, wrong, or indifferent. It's because somebody has made it their business to tell me that I'm not important. Mm-hmm. That is one thing I just tried my hardest. I can't say that I never did it, but I can tell you that I tried my hardest to never shut my children down in a way that made them feel insignificant. But I can tell you, I've been on the school grounds, and I know I have witnessed it for myself. I've seen it and have gone home. There's been times in which I've cried about it. There's been times in which I've been so angry, I want somebody fired. I see so many adults showing in an example how insignificant they feel some of these children are. Don't call children bad. They're not bad. They are reacting and responding to something that has happened to them, and their behaviors are just an outcome, is just change to the money that you are trying to spend. How about that? If you think about it, if you give $10 to the cashier and they give you $1.50 back, that's change, right? That's a great desired outcome. But when you treat a child in a bad way, his change to you is to react and respond in a negative way, something you don't appreciate. So think about that. When you put the money in and you want something back out of it, you got to be careful what you're asking for to be returned. Test anxiety can be reduced. Suicide rates can be reduced. There are lots of things that just simple communication can help to improve. And if we are all here for the children, the opportunity is here for you to do that. And so you say you have teachers that are actually using this in their classroom and they are having positive results. Mm-hmm. Now, wouldn't it be great to have an entire building of teachers who are using Bank, and then all the kids are like, oh, I like it over here too, and I'm okay to stay here. So what does that look like? What can they do if the teachers are interested in joining? First of all, crack your code. You want to learn more about what's going on, there's a QR code on the screen. Go ahead and scan that QR code and crack your code. They're going to give you a report, and it's going to show you what we're talking about. It's going to provide you information about yourself that's going to allow you to understand what we're talking about here today. I can tell you I'm a KB, that's a knowledge blueprint, nurturing action, right? I hate the fact that my action is at the end. I like freedom, but I have to make sure the process is in place first before I can get my freedom. It's just how I move, right? I recognize that and I'm okay. I want to learn as much as I possibly can and put all of the pieces in place so I could go out and play. That's just how I move, right? And so you're going to be able to learn that too. But how can teachers make this part of their teaching, or what do they need to do in order to learn more about how they can bring the Codebreaker to their classroom?
Well, a couple of things. We have opportunities for training and development, and they can certainly reach out to us about that. And ultimately, it can start with the teacher in a classroom. It can start with a conversation at the district level or the university level, then multiple, higher ed and K-12 implementations where it's every student and it's in the student information system. It's on the rosters. If it was during COVID and they were doing classes like this virtually in Zoom, where they could see the code of every student that they were interacting with, so they knew which language to speak. And ultimately, it's a process to ensure that not just the administrators understand this, but to make sure all the teachers, the students, the parents, that it's an ecosystem, it's the community. And the other part of it is student to student. We talked about suicide, of course, but bullying. I mean, when people start understanding and respecting each other's difference, it's a game changer in seeing the dynamic shift with an appreciation of what each student brings to the classroom setting is so powerful. So I would encourage that. Again, we're excited about continuing to build the database and the case studies around this because we know it works based on what we've seen so far in terms of the improvements and the difference anecdotally and quantitatively as well. So please reach out to us, and we would love to support you in making a difference in your classroom. There's tools that even going through a basic training as a teacher that you can start implementing within your own classroom. So Mamie obviously is very involved with some of that as well. And Michelle, so anything you want to add to that?
I'm just going to jump in. I am a student of Nelson Mandela, the each one, teach one, each one, reach one theory. And it just takes one person to say yes. And, Tony Robbins said, if I could impact the life of one person, it would ripple effect out to 350,000 people. That's all we're looking for. We're looking for that one person who wants to make that change in life. And that's why I think we're all here, Tabitha, is because we are looking for that one person that can ripple effect out to whoever needs to hear it.
Yep.
And this is just the beginning. Just the beginning.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be with you guys for a while. You might have to beat me away with a stick. I'll just find another leg to hold on to. So I'm like, no, I just need some little bit of help because I get it. I 100% get it. All right, Michelle, you've been sitting in the cut, and I know that that's not where you hang out. So what do you have to say about all of this as we're beginning to wrap up?
Our kids are our future.
Mm-hmm.
And we all can do better. And we can all help our kids more. This is something that communication and relationships and being able to truly understand the people around you is a gift that I wish I had access to when I was a kid. It would have changed my life for the better. And so all of us are on a mission to impact the world, give our kids a better place to live, and make a difference in the world, to truly make people matter, make kids matter, and make this world a better place.
Yeah, I like that, because here's the thing. I look at it. Teachers always say the same thing. Dr. Eric, they probably says, we don't have the money to implement. We don't have the money. But so Mamie mentioned something, the fact that 100%, that's the other thing I want to make very clear. All you teachers and administrators, You have a problem with absenteeism, period. We know it. We see it in the numbers. At the end of the day, if you can do something that puts 100% of the butts in those seats, why would you not reach out and talk to one of us? Not me. Well, yes, me. You can talk to me too. Talk to me. Come on. I'm waiting for you. But why would you not want to implement something that will help to increase, one, all the children that you're able to educate, two, the amount of money that you are going to receive because your absenteeism will be reduced, and three, being able to improve your scores and your metrics to a point where you can then go and focus elsewhere instead of focusing on things that should be inherently part of the experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so powerful. And I think it's empowering people with the skills so that we don't have teachers wanting to leave the profession, because it's one of the roles that's critical in our society. When you think about it, especially given the stats you shared about the number of hours spent at work and commuting and co-parenting and everything else. And I think it is that, reach one, teach one, each one can do that, and really having the ability to do that. I've got a forthcoming book actually next month called From Teacher to Leader, about people moving into educational leadership roles. But the reality is every teacher is a leader in their own right. You don't have to have a formal administrative role to be able to influence. As Mamie talked about, this originally was in sales. It was about you buy from people you know, like, and trust. And it's the same thing as a student in a classroom. When you trust, you're going to receive the information. The teacher's going to have influence. It's the same thing at home when you have that trusting relationship. So these are life skills. In relationships, again, it's the most important skill in life. We know it's going to predict your longevity, whether you have healthy relationships or not. So what is it worth to invest in yourself, whether you're a teacher or not, to learn how to be more effective in communicating and to be able to have more influence, impact. And in some cases, that obviously also impacts your income in life so that you can live a better life as well.
Oh, that's a good one. So I didn't ever think about that. I don't know if you realize it, but I had a light bulb moment.
Nice. I love when those ahas happen in a classroom or in a meeting.
I'm like, oh, but I had to control myself. So I had to rein it in. So one is that they may purchase it for school, but they can use it for home. So if it can help you save your marriage, save the relationship with your children. I never really understood why people would say I'm estranged from my children, right? But now I realize it's because we suck at communicating. If we communicated better as a whole, in the country, I can just about imagine what it would potentially look like. It would be, we wouldn't have all these people. Like I woke up to 7 people shot this morning, right? Some of that stuff possibly wouldn't exist if you got to the point where, okay, this person doesn't feel heard. So the only way they feel heard is to shoot you or to punch you in the face or to drop kick you, whatever those are going to be. That's the outcome to an initial income. Like that's a cause and effect situation. Whatever happened that caused you to ultimately respond and react is where we need to start to ask those questions. And a lot of it comes down to communication. If we could just solve our communication issues, period, things would be so much better for everyone. And keep in mind, the way we communicate with our children is the same way they're going to communicate with us when the tables get flipped. I've seen it and I was like, oh, geez, this is not good. Because they talk to their parents terribly. And I was like, I still respect my mom, although, some days maybe I want to conquer in the head, but you still want, because my mom is fine. But I've gone through this process where, the silver team, as they age, they start to do some things. And if they talk to you crazy and sideways, you get to do some things, right? But I don't play that way, but I've seen other people do that where they're disrespectful to their parent and things like that because they're so frustrated and they flip the tables. So if we can learn how to communicate overall, we can save our children, save our families, and save other people, our community. So I do thank you for being here. I think this was an amazing conversation. You guys did such a great job. You know, I encourage anybody. I'm going to send this out to other teachers because I feel like that the message is here. It's cost effective to join the bank family. It is lucrative for you because you won't have to go and look for another job elsewhere. And then two, you get to improve your scores, your metrics, because as you've heard multiple times before, this week, I believe that the metrics is broken, not the people, right? It's what we're measuring against that's actually causing and providing us an outcome that we are not happy with. And as taxpayers, we are requiring you as educators and administrators to do something different. When you know better, you do better. And the options are here today. And so thank you, Dr. Eric, Mamie, and Michelle for hanging out with me for an hour and providing them with a solution to their problem. I'm loving it. So thank you, everybody, for showing up and giving us some love and some comments. So remember, as always, words are power. Remember to use them wisely.
Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week, same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest, like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message.